Hello, my lovelies. It's G here with Golden Thread Tarot, and I'm here to bring you another channeled message. I hope this message is finding you blessed and full of abundance. I just did another reading where I had the same shirt on, and Spirit is talking about the power of the pregnant pause, of stopping and allowing for a shift in perspective. If you are resonating with this reading, Spirit is saying that there is definitely, and I know it's a long reading, it's an hour and a half long reading, but there is a lot of information that's really going to resonate with you in that reading as well. So these readings are kind of like piggybacking off each other, but I'm seeing that some of you might come to this reading first. I might end up posting this reading first, so be on the lookout for that reading if this reading ends up being posted first. When you see that reading, or if that reading's already posted, you know what to do. So I'm going to pull one of this Lantern Oracle to see what the overall energy of this reading that Spirit wants to talk about. And we're going to go from there. We're just going to play it by ear and see what's coming up. Spirit is talking to here about a Three of Pentacles, about an agreement, understanding that that even though if we do not have the enlightenment at our current state of evolution to understand, there are certain things in life we have agreed to. And that even in situations that you feel like you are the victim of, or that you feel like that you are out of control of, you are actually in control, because some of those most challenging moments are exactly the moments that you came here for. Some of those most like, oh my gosh, why would anyone ever agree to go through that? Exactly. Ask yourself, why is it that I have agreed to go through this? What am I learning? What's being highlighted to me? What is my soul asking me to evolve? What am I learning from this situation? And that there is power. And that in some of those moments when you feel the most out of control, when your ego or when your 3D self might feel the most out of control, God is the most in control. And in that sense, since we have come here in an agreement, in a contract with God to learn those lessons, we are the most in control. Our higher selves are the most in control. In the moments when our 3D self and our logical brain tells us we are the most out of control, our higher self and God is in the most control. And it is time for you to tap into that. To see that for what it is, and to tap into that higher understanding that can come through those moments. Damn. I've never thought of it that way. Like, I guess I kind of have, but not in those exact words. Uh-oh. You okay? Oh, my cat was sleeping over there, and she just like rolled over in her sleep and just like rolled off the chair that she was. Hold on. Here. There you go. There, I don't want you to fall off. Okay. Repair. I'm being guided to look at this. I'm going to keep shuffling, but repair. Making amends rather than fun times. Making amends rather than fun times reveals a relationship's true constitution. Construction. Again, that's That's what I just said, right? Or what Spirit just said, right? Sometimes when life is in the most disorder is when you're really seeing what you're made of. Or you're really seeing, you know, it's really about when your character is put to the test that you really see what you're made out of, right? When you're put into those challenging situations, you really see when it gets down to the nitty gritty, right? And if you have a reaction or you see a side of your character that you really don't like, that is an opportunity. That is an opportunity to grow. And it's an opportunity to say, I don't like the way I handled that. I don't like that I came out. I don't like that I got so emotionally dysregulated. I don't like that I gave away my power to that situation. I don't like that, you know, but there's power in seeing that. Because when you allow yourself to not look away from it, to not make excuses for it, but to look at it, that's when there can be realization and true change can come about. You know, it's also reminding me how you hear some people say that, you know, when things are going good, we don't go to God. It's some people, you know, only go to God when things are falling apart and they need help. Which I'm not judging that. I don't that just kind of came up. But it is this kind of sense of like, go through something. This also applies in connections with, you know, with other things, with people. It's easy to be friends, or it's easy to be with somebody when all the getting's good. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty, when it gets hard, people show you who they really are. And I'm getting that this is more about your relationship within yourself, you know, but that's also true too. All right, come on, Spirit. We're 7 minutes in. Okay, they're saying stop. Whew. Forgiveness. Hurt blocks our light. Mama. And this includes when we hurt ourselves, right? This is really giving me more about your relationship with yourself and thus your relationship with God as well. Your relationship with Source, with the universe. How you see your place. How you feel your relationship to how in control you feel, or how powerful you feel, or how much you feel like what has happened to you reflects what God thinks you're worth. Also, maybe times in your life when you haven't showed the best character, you know, and you're like, ooh, I don't like that part of myself. This is about forgiveness of those things. Not just forgiving yourself, but also forgiving yourself, but also holding yourself accountable. Holding yourself accountable for the ways that you've, you know, failed yourself, but still having compassion and forgiveness for yourself. Then understanding that healing that starts with forgiving yourself, accepting that part of yourself and forgiving that part of yourself. But still saying, I'm not going to let that shit slide though. Right? I'm not going to let this behavior continue. Because then I'll get stuck. Then my guilt turns into shame. And when I repeat those patterns, it's just like, ugh, I must really be a terrible person because look how I'm continuing to do this terrible thing. Or look how I'm making choices, you know, based in my hurt or my pain or my trauma. And it's really hurting myself. And it's not only hurting myself, but it's hurting the people around me as well. Healing is just as much about setting boundaries and holding those boundaries with yourself as it is with learning to hold those boundaries with other people. There is a light here that wants to shine from outside of you. And that definitely reminds me of another part of that reading that I was talking about. The pregnant pause reading. The power of the pregnant pause. Because when you allow yourself to have that pause, to have that difference, to have that isolation, to go inside, all the voices, all the exterior voices get quieted. But then you can hear how much sometimes we don't realize how much our inner voice echoes that same chatter from the outside. But it is in going through, having the bravery and the strength to realize that, to become self-aware, to know thyself. All parts of myself, not just the parts of myself that I like, but to also dig into my shadow and say, there's some parts inside of my shadow that don't deserve to be in here because I was unjustly made to feel ashamed of this part of me. But sometimes there's also parts of our shadow that we're like, ooh, I don't like that about myself. That's a negative trait about myself. That's a weakness about myself. And it's not just something that that's actually a strength, or that's actually beautiful, that somebody unjustly told me to have false guilt about. Sometimes I have guilt because I did that. I did that ish. I messed up. I was selfish. I was judgmental. I was mean. I was abusive. I did those things. I did that. Your shadow is not only filled up with things that are falsely in there. It's also filled up with things that you're like, don't like that. Not too proud of that. That wasn't my best moment. And Spirit is saying, let a light shine on this part of you and help bring your forgiveness. Because there's power in allowing, there's strength in being this vulnerable that allows this side of your shadow to show. Yeah. I do have things that I'm not proud of. I do have parts of myself that I wasn't in my strength. I wasn't in my power. I wasn't standing in my worthiness. I wasn't holding myself accountable. Whew. Speaking of that, Spirit wants me to go through here and read a little bit of what I find in here in my journal. Wow. That's crazy. Today I became in touch with a wound that I have inside of myself. A wound I've held in my sacral chakra. A deep shame I held. Sometimes I'm selfish. Sometimes I'm self-centered. I ran away long before I ran away. I hated my life, and I hated the politics too. I hated that I was a pawn, sometimes to be sold for political alliances. I could do so much more than just be a pretty face in a womb. I was a child caught up in childish things. All the fighting and bickering made us easy prey. We fought for land that no longer existed. We fought to rule a people that were no more. What were we really fighting for? I felt that I was holding the whole weight of the world and my people on my back. I ran away and I hid my light. Wow. I felt like I was supposed to lead our people, to save them. Instead, I just saved myself. Calm your nervous system to get out of survival mode. Make a plan. Know what you want. Sorry, some of this is like scribbling because I'm just like mad scribbling. Make a plan. Make a plan. Know what you want. If you don't know, ask and listen. Allow for this to end. Make room for yourself. Fear suppresses your connection to self and thus your connection to source energy. Whoo, mama. Yikes. Whew. Y'all. I know y'all don't know the context of that, but that was so hard for me to read. That's such a deep, vulnerable part of my shadow. Holy crap. Whew. Mama. Radical. Radical self-love. Radical honesty. About being honest and being true to yourself. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Looking at yourself, not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Looking deeply into some of the things that you are the most ashamed of. And being honest with yourself about those things existing, about those feelings existing within yourself, and finding that forgiveness, because holding on to that hatred or holding on to that shame suppresses your light. We can only receive love to the extent that we unconditionally love and live the truth of ourselves. That's so crazy too, because I said that I said I felt like I was holding the weight of the world on my shoulders, and look at her holding that, what looks kind of like a planet, holding the weight of all of that on their shoulders. Wow. Dang. Radical honesty. To believe in the facade is to suffocate in the armor of alienation, self-defeat, and self-denial. Mm. And I can't really show this one because it got a little well, maybe I can show it. It kind of just, ooh, she a little exposed, mama. But it's misalignment. Miracles become normal once we face all the aspects of our life in the same direction. And for some reason I look at this figure and I think of Lilith. The part, the demonized parts of ourself that represents the no, I won't submit. No, I refuse. Yes, I will disobey. No, I do not allow that. No, yes, I am fighting back against the powers that be. Yes, I am fighting back against the word of God. In the traditional Christian biblical sense of Lilith, right? Some of you could definitely be dealing with some kind of internalized shame based on that, on this energy of disobeying the rules. Does it make you wrong to rise up and disobey the rules, to go against the rules when the rules are founded in injustice? when the rules ask you to turn away and misalign yourself with what you know to be true about yourself. But all of that is held within your shadow. Whether or not it be healthy guilt or it be unhealthy shame, right? Because guilt is about I did something wrong. Shame is I am something wrong. And guilt is healthy. Guilt is a negative emotion that is meant to inspire us to do better and to know when we have done something that offends our authenticity. But shame makes us feel like that authenticity is wrong. Guilt is healthy, but shame is toxic. And your shadow holds both. But I think for some of you, that has become twisted. Some of you might be God. If that is something that you would like to know more about, I would recommend you looking up, even here on YouTube, Tim Fletcher. He does a lot of talking about working with adults who are pulling themselves and healing themselves out of CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you struggle with that, if you struggle with guilt, shame, if you struggle with childhood wounds, childhood trauma, things like that, for me personally, I have found that he is a really good resource of information about that. Specifically, he has a lot of really good things around understanding the difference between guilt and shame. And that if you grow up in an environment with, toxic parents, how you can conflate the two, how you can be filled with the sense of false guilt because parents and and that sort of type of environment can put this sense of, and not just parents, teachers, siblings, whoever, people that you perceive as a child, that you perceive to have authority over you, they can put this sense of fault, what he calls like false guilt, inside of you because they are busy projecting this kind of distorted reality into. And I definitely, he can put it so much more eloquently and things that I can. So I would definitely say if you struggle with that type of pulling yourself away from this distorted identity, that you kind of this kind of energy of disentanglement and reorienting your brain to think outside of this type of wounding, I would really encourage you. Also, another person that's really good about that's here on YouTube is Crappy Childhood Fairy. I would definitely check her out as well. And she has, and so does Tim. They both have like workshops and they both have pamphlets. I know particularly Crappy Childhood Fairy has free worksheets and journals that you can download, whole websites full of really good tools to help teach, especially around emotional regulation. You know, and that crappy, neither one of them are particularly very, like, they don't talk a lot about like spiritual stuff, but particularly crappy childhood fairy is not anti-spiritual, but very anti this whole like soulmates, karmic. You know, she's very anti that. She doesn't talk about it that much, but if a situation like that does come up, she won't hesitate to express that. So if that is triggering to you, that's just a heads up in that situation. However, I do feel like she's an amazing tool. You know, she is an amazing source, or she's not an amazing tool, but she is an amazing source for collecting those things in your toolbox to really help you see outside of this distortion that having that type of childhood or being raised in that type of environment over a long term, whether it was from your childhood or whether it is in your adulthood, it's great. Both of them are both really good, and they've helped me tremendously. So I would definitely, you know, those sources are out there, and they're awesome. If you haven't checked them out, go give them a like, go give them a subscribe, go check out some of their content, and if it really resonates with you, you know, that's out there for you. Where do I want to go next? Okay. So Spirit wants to jump into the Isis Oracle. And we have here Rising Sun, the Divine Solar Child Reborn. And then we have the Temple of Carnelian. Enter the Fierce Belly of Sekhmet. So some of you might be working with understanding the power of transmuting your divine anger, especially in this whole type we were just talking about, you know, rising above this kind of distorted sense of self, or this distorted, you know, that might have come from trauma from your childhood or trauma from relationships. Lady of the Stars, Priestess of Sirius. I'm going to read that from the book. On the back of the deck, we also have the Lunar Queen, she of the Celestial Crescent. And I know I've talked about it before, but I cannot sing the praises of any of these decks by Elena Fairchild enough, especially the books. The guidebooks that come with these are so beyond, so good. So good. So in depth, so always on it in my I have found. Let it resonate for you as it does, though. I think that's it, right? Lady of the Stars, 93. Lady of the Stars, Priestess of Sirius. Sirius is a celestial goddess, a star of unconditional love and wisdom at an extremely high vibration. It brings deep soul awakening, spiritual gifts, and a high capacity for divine service. Lady of the Stars is also an empowerment of all other oracles in this deck. She tells you to pay attention because something significant is taking place right now. Syrian energy takes the inner path and the spiritual healing journey into a whole new stratosphere. It is wise, ancient, and extremely high vibrational energy. It takes a certain level of soul evolution to be able to consciously register Syrian light and transmit it on this planet. The heart in question must be able to consciously cultivate unconditional love for it to occur. However, we can still receive Syrian light and healing assistance even if we are still learning to be more consistently come from unconditional love. We will feel it more and more strongly as we grow spiritually, but even in our learning phase, we can open our hearts to the divine celestial goddess and allow her, through her priestess Lady Isis, to bless us with genuine spiritual gifts. So you definitely could be calling in this and learning a lesson here around this unconditional love, having unconditional love and forgiveness of self. Have accepting of the whole self, shadow integration into the self. And shadow integration is about having the bravery and the strength to look and to not look away, to look into the face of the things that we don't like about ourselves, the things that we're realizing, wow, I was made to not like this about myself and I shouldn't have. And then there are things that I have been hiding away from myself that I don't like about myself that honestly aren't the best parts of myself. But that shadow integration is about not looking away from those things and holding space for all parts of ourselves as a whole person. And to have the strength of the vulnerability of looking at those things. It takes you being vulnerable to admit those things about yourself. To have that radical self-love and that radical self-honesty. To admit when we're holding our wounds as armor. And to realize that sometimes that armor is suffocating us. That in that self, in that we are denying ourselves. We are alienating ourselves. We are misaligning ourselves. Because we are rejecting and refusing to look at those parts of ourselves. And in that way, we are keeping ourselves trapped in cycles that are not healthy for ourselves. Refusing to accept those parts of ourselves and to let go of the guilt or the shame. Because it's hurtful to look at that, to look at our shadow. But it is an important part of soul evolution to realize that we can't just look at the light. We also have to look into the dark as well. And there is power and strength in bringing that light into the dark. And there is also strength in understanding that when you bring that shadow into the light as well, you understand how sometimes that light persecutes the dark. Or how that light can keep us stuck in cycles of self-righteousness. And how in judging other people, we are rejecting parts of ourselves. Oh, mama. It's not easy to go on this journey. It's not easy. It's not a calm little nice walk in the park. It's not always pretty. But there's power in that. There's power in saying not everything has to be aesthetically pleasing. Not everything has to be beautiful. Not everything has to feel good. There's power in allowing things to get chaotic, to allow things to get ugly. Again, I talked a lot in that other reading about the power in the pregnant pause, right? And the power that's in that pregnant pause is stopping and going inside of yourself into this shadow energy, doing this shadow work, but then learning how to pull yourself out of that shadow work as well. And when you learn how to pull yourself out of that shadow work, you are giving birth to the new, transformed, integrated, harmonized self. The self that sees power in both the light and the dark. That sees weakness in both the light and the dark. And has the wisdom to know how to balance both of those. And we come into whole, and it reminds me of the yin-yang symbol, how there is light and dark, but there is light in the dark and dark in the light. Finding that peace and harmony and balance in both. And the serious energy is coming in here. God is serious. Through her priestess, Lady Isis is reaching to you. She has offerings of great spiritual support and a message that there is something significant that you need to be aware of in your life right now. Accepting celestial assistance and unconditional love of Sirius will help you. To receive the assistance, you can choose to surrender into your heart and to allow divine love to infuse and heal, direct and unfold all aspects of your life and growth. It is total trust and surrender with absolute faith that even unexpected twists and turns will be leading you in the best direction. That goes all the way back to the very first things that I was saying, was that there is power in those moments that feels like you're in the dark and everything's falling apart. There's power in chaos. That when things feel like they're falling apart, we're being asked to step back and release control. And allow things to fall into divine order, into divine understanding. But our logical brain, our fearful logical brain, will want us to force and fight and claw and try to make sense of things. But there is power in allowing for the divine unfolding. Whew. That there is strength and power and truth that we feel inside of ourselves in those moments that we feel rejected. Because there's something here about you feeling like I'm being rejected because I'm not allowed to be in control of this situation. But there's power in isolation. There's power in being in the dark. There's power. There's power in light and in clarity. And then there is power in silence. There is power in saying, I don't know what's going on here. And if I'm in that position, that God is trying to tell me that's the best position for me to be in right now. But my logical brain doesn't like that. My logical, rational human brain doesn't like feeling that way, because our brain always wants to fight for power, for organization, for understanding. But there is power in being in the light of the moon. There's power in allowing that. Right? I have to show this, because here we have the sun and we have the moon, and they're separated by a 10 of wands. Spirit is saying that you're holding this undue burden, that this transition will happen naturally. But there's something here about you carrying the burden of this transition on your back, and Spirit is saying, didn't nobody tell you to do that? Didn't nobody tell you you had to do that? And if they did, they was lying to you. Give your fears, your anxieties, and your worries about this time over to God, over to Spirit, over to the divine. Because it's your logical brain telling you that you need to feel this 10 of wands, that you need to feel the burden of this, of the weight of this on your back. You don't. This unfolding, this transition, it will happen naturally. You just have to know when you're asked to being step back and to observe. And then there will be times when you're like, oh, Spirit is asking me to step forward and step into my masculine energy and step into action. And then I will be asked to step back and observe and understand. And then I will be asked to step forward and put that, what I have observed, into action, into understanding. That your body and your spirit knows how to naturally transition and waver back and forth between these things, to lean out and to lean in, to lean out and to lean in, to breathe out and to breathe in. Your body knows how to naturally do that. And in such, your soul now knows how to naturally do that too. All you have to do is listen and allow. But it's your logical brain. And I just looked at this 10 of wands and I heard devil, right? It's your logical brain telling you, no, I have to control this. And I need to squeeze out every single little bit of understanding and control out of this situation. And Spirit is saying, I didn't tell you how to do that. Your spirit guys are sitting there going, didn't nobody tell her she had to do that? Didn't nobody tell him he had to do that? He, she, they, them. Whoever you identify. No, nobody told them they had to do that. But your brain, your mind is slowing down this process. Your shadow, this, and it's being fed by your ego and by your shadow. Your shadow that's afraid and that it wants to control. A fearful, logical mind wants to control and doesn't want to give in to the natural rhythm of this. Get yourself out of shame mode. Get yourself out of guilt mode. Get yourself out of fear. And ground yourself into the knowing that this will play out in time in the way that it's supposed to. And that doesn't mean just sit back and do nothing. But there are some times when Spirit is saying, take your hands off the wheel and then put your hands on the wheel. Take your hands off, put your hands on. And you are learning that now in this pregnant pause energy. Because so much of your new self is being developed. And it could have been a long pause. Well, it takes 9 months to build a person. A lot goes into it. A lot of energy. It's not comfortable to be pregnant. I personally have never been pregnant, but I've had a lot of friends and family members and people that have, and they tell me that People tell you, oh, it's magical. Sure. But it also sucks. It's also so uncomfortable and so draining. And it is a magical, beautiful, mystical, spiritual experience. But it's also the other thing too. But it's also physically and mentally and emotionally draining. And it's also tiring. And it's also extremely uncomfortable. And when the time comes to birth that new self, at the end of all of this draining comes one of the most physically demanding things as a woman that you might ever do. And so it's painful, and it comes at a high cost. And Spirit is saying that spiritually, emotionally, you are going through that process now. And Spirit says that for a lot of you, you've been fighting this the whole time. I don't want to do this, and I don't want to sit here, and I don't want to, and you've been missing out a lot, and you have only been paying attention to the burdensome part of this. And I mean, not every part of our awakening journey feels like that. Sometimes we go through awakenings and it feels like bliss, and because believe me, I went through my bliss stage of my awakening, and it was magical. But I have also gone through, and I went through a couple of years of it feeling that way. But I also now have gone through a couple of years of shadow work, a couple of years of dark night, and it has been rough. And not every part of our spiritual journey is going to feel pleasant. Sometimes you're going to be sick. Sometimes you're going to be beaten down. Sometimes you're going to be forced to really think about a lot of things that are hard and heavy. And tiring and exhausting and expensive. In more than one way. Really, speaking of being, I'm sorry, you guys. I have been channeling for the past 3 hours, and I'm feeling it. I'm gonna have to lay down and take a nap after this. I am. Oh, that's gonna be so sweet. I'm gonna lay down, cuddle up with my doogie, with my little dog. Take me a little nap, drink me a bunch of water, but then after I get up, I have a delicious meal to cook myself, which I'm so excited about. So that's going to be a lovely little night with me, myself, and I. And that's the part of it, right? Even though sometimes these readings, it's like, wow, this is taking a lot out of me. It's always so beautiful. And the insights that Spirit shares with both of us. At the same time, I'm always just like, wow. So amazing. I'm just going to read this part and I'm going to move on from this part of the book. Sirius brings blessings and highlighted intuition, refined soul, healing ability, and closer connection to your soul, and the Lady Isis too. If you have been questioning your evolution, starting to wonder if you are really just at the beginning of the path or not really in intuition at all, then this card is a divine acknowledgement of the power, light, and evolution of your soul vibration. Come on now. That there is refinement and achievement there. So if you have been wondering if this pregnant pause has got you in your feelings and you're like, am I actually evolving? Are things changing? Am I just turning around in circles? Is something happening here? And let's be real, we all go through parts in our journey when we feel that way. When we're like, am I really doing it? Am I on my path? I'm in alignment? Because I feel like crap. Some days I don't feel it. This card is here to let you know, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Not all parts of the journey feel great and make us feel good about ourselves. Wow. That was powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. It can be hard sometimes realizing that we've been playing around and playing games and we're doing things that kind of end up hurting ourselves. And that's funny because that was the Five of Swords. Excuse me. And the two cards that we really started out, the energy that we started out with in that last reading was the Four of Swords and the Five of Swords. The Four of Swords was that energy of the pregnant pause, stopping and looking within, looking to our shadow, and realizing a lot of things about ourselves to prepare ourselves for this kind of Five of Swords energy. Building up our resilience to that resistance energy that pushes back on our journey. And that's what this is, right? It's that resistance energy that says, are you really doing anything? Well, you don't feel good all the time. Well, you don't look good all the time. Well, maybe you put on a little bit of weight. Maybe your face is kind of broken out a little bit. Are you really an empress? Are you really on your journey? Are you really in alignment? You're having some issues with your family, or you're having some issues in your life, or maybe things don't look exactly, whatever it is. Not every part of our journey is going to be blissful and healthy, and our skin's not going to be glowing, and our hair is going to be long, or our money is going to be long. It's not going to be like that in every part of our journey. The journey is not meant to be easy and blissful the whole time. Five of Wands and the Hierophant. There is something here about receiving pushback from tradition. Like, it's like this energy of being traditional. Now, whether that's traditional viewpoints, traditional belief systems, whether that's not traditionally how people have seen you, or how they've clarified you, or how they've classified you, or if this is about yourself. And it could be a combination of all these things. What your society, what your community, what society as a whole tells you, the box that they tell you that you're supposed to fit in. And this is how I clarify you, and this is how I classify you. I know you because you do this, 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 this. You act like this, 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 and this. And when you start changing those things, you can get a pushback from that, like, this isn't like you. Oh, you're brand new now. Oh, you're acting brand new now. You can hear those sort of things might be echoed back to you. Whether that comes from somebody outside of yourself, or whether that comes from your own lack mentalities providing this resistance energy of, this is how we've always felt. This is how we've got by. This is how we've always thought. This is how we've always dealt with this. Why try something new now? Why break out of the box now? Because our soul is calling us to do it. And remember that. When you are faced with this resistance energy, when you are faced with this energy of like, is going through all this really worth it? Because you feel like this right now. Is going through all this really worth it? Remember why you're here, and remember why you're doing this journey. Remember why you're taking this and you're doing this. Exactly. Nine of Wands. It's to learn that soul lesson. It's to bring that soul growth. Come on now, Emperor. It's to ground in this sun energy. And it is bringing in this sun energy into the dark, into your shadow, that illuminates those things about yourself that are going to provide you with the most soul growth. Remember that when things feel like they're falling apart and things feel like they're chaotic, your higher self is in the most control. Your higher self, God's plan, is in effect in your life. And the lesson is to learn how to let go of control, to go along for the ride, and to search for your how empowering it can be to be in that state of understanding that, wow, this is so amazing. My life is falling apart so that it can come together in a better way. And of course, that doesn't feel great. Our life falling apart or things not coming to fruition doesn't feel great. Facing those things inside of ourselves and holding ourselves to task for the parts of ourselves that we're not that happy with doesn't feel great. But there is strength and there is power in that. And there is power in having the vulnerability to do that. Allowing yourself to do that. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Allowing those parts of yourself that you would rather hide away to show and be there. And to not turn away from them, but to bring light to them so that they can be healed. So that you're not continuing to shove that stuff down inside of your shadow. Ooh, 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 ooh. Tower. Ooh, I was just about to say that. I was going to say tower energy, and there's the tower. Ooh. And it's coming out. The tower is coming out so that you can see. Mom, you need to walk away. You need to walk away from what does not serve you. And you need to understand that the truth, a buried truth, is coming up to the surface. And that truth is not always pretty. That truth, it is always healing. But it's not always easy to see. It's not always easy to face. It's not always easy to swallow. It's not always easy to allow it to bear itself. I ran away. I did something shameful. I did something that I feel ashamed of because I feel guilty. And because of that, because of my toxic guilt, I feel that I am something to be ashamed of. When that's not true. I'm not something to be ashamed of. But I can look at the guilt that I feel and decide to do better. And in facing that truth, you find that true energy within you. You find that blessed new beginning that allows you to go towards a true happiness, a true understanding, a blessed beginning. Radical self-love. And understanding that when these tower moments happen, it's because the foundation was rotten. But when the dust and the chaos and everything is flying around and the bricks are falling down around us, it's hard to look at God and go, thank you, God. This is just what I needed. Ooh, Ace of Pentacles, mama. Come on. Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups, Ace of Pentacles. But there is hidden treasure here. There's an ability to grow. Facing this truth and integrating it inside of you allows you to grow. Look, allows you to heal, mama. When you feel rejected by the world, when you feel rejected by God, know that sometimes in those moments when you feel the most alone is when God wants it to just be just the two of you. I'm taking all this other distractions and all this shit away from you because I want it, baby. I want it to be just me and you. And I want you to listen to me. Woo! Because that's when the most healing can occur. Oh, and see oh no, it wasn't Nine of Pentacles. It was Nine of Cups in the last reading that came out. The Nine of Cups. The Nine of Pentacles. Independence. An unhealthy, fierce independence. That's actually Seven of Swords, some type of sabotage. Because I was thinking about that too. That not all of our journey, that sometimes we can get stuck in that it has to be just me mode. It can only be just me. Because I can't trust anybody else. You can get in those modes too. And God doesn't want you to get trapped in those modes either. Ooh. Yeah. Number 8. Weeping wound. You are not your wounds. I don't know if I can show this card. It's a little graphic. Wow. False beliefs. False beliefs is behind that. And if you watch that other reading, you know how significant false beliefs are. And behind that is women supporting women. And if you watch that other reading, you know how significant these two cards were in that reading. Wow. And behind those is melting mask. Allow your spirit self to shine through the many roles you fulfill. You're not just your wounds. You're not just your shadow side. You're not just your light side. You are multifaceted. And you deserve to be seen, and you deserve to be held, and you deserve to be respected for all aspects of yourself. And you deserve to respect all aspects of yourself. And sometimes respecting certain aspects of yourself looks like healing them so that they no longer trigger you, so that they no longer. I'm showing up for myself and I'm loving myself. I'm not shaming myself about this aspects of myself. I am bringing light to it so that if it is something that's self-sabotaging, something that I need to change, I can shine a light on that instead of burying it within me and deep down inside of shame where it's too painful to see it. I can bring it up to the surface. And I can look at it and I can say, well, parts of this are things that, are false guilt, and parts of these are not parts of myself I should actually be ashamed of. Some of this stuff is stuff that was falsely put inside of me, and some of it was, you know, it's like a root. Spirit is saying is that a lot of that when you face whatever this is that you're healing, the shame wound that you're healing, right? You stop holding on to those wounds. And that's funny because all on the back of this deck before we got into the tarot deck was the Four of Pentacles, which is about holding on to those things. And when I went to pick up this deck, my hand hit it and it knocked over the Four of Pentacles into the floor and cast that energy of that out of the reading. So Spirit is saying, you do not, like, there is something here about denying those wounds and turning away from them is you holding on to them. But when you look at them, you face them, you realize that you are not just your wounds. But there is something here about when you deny them, when you bury them down inside, they work their way out unconsciously to the surface. In your patterns, in your false beliefs, in your relationships with people. And you don't realize how much that wounding that you're holding and that you're looking away from is feeding those emotions, those reactions, those triggers, those feelings inside of you. And you don't realize how much it's affecting so much of your life and how much you're holding on to that wounding and how it's creating this false victim energy inside of you. And I'm not saying that you weren't victimized by another person. And I'm not saying that somebody didn't do unfair or unjust things to you to cause that wounding. But as we say here, and it's not my saying, but I've said it plenty of times, and I said it in that other reading too. It's not our fault that we were wounded, but it is our responsibility to heal them. And it's also, and in part of that healing, is having an understanding and a knowing of self of how the woundings that we have received in the past create these false beliefs inside of ourselves. And that they create these masks. That we hold these masks over saying, no, I'm not wounded. No, I'm fine. When underneath the surface, we are not fine. And Spirit wants you to have this radical self-love enough to say that, to say, no, I'm not fine. I'm not always okay. I'm not always feeling great. Everything's not always doing well. I'm not always proud of myself and the choices that I have made. But you know what? That just makes me human. It just makes me a being. It just makes me imperfect, and I'm not perfect, and I'm not meant to be perfect. But that doesn't mean that I hold on to those imperfections and I allow them to color my life and affect me and to hold me back. I need to face those things within me and understand how sometimes I can hold on to those wounding as a crutch, as an excuse, as armor that I put around myself. When if I took the time to heal those wounds, I wouldn't feel the need to put up that armor around me. That it is only for the fact that I am refusing to heal that wound that I feel the very need to put up that armor in the first place. And that when I step into that unconditional love for self, I mirror that unconditional, I mirror that love, that radical love for others as well. And it helps me to heal my trust. And I don't feel like my trust is in it, and I don't feel like, because I trust myself to have discernment, to notice when, oh no, I think the situation is going to hurt me, and to pull my energy away from it. And to have discernment as to what is right for me to pour energy into. Having self-respect and self-love and knowing my worth means I know I don't deserve to walk around with these wounds affecting me, self-sabotaging me, subconsciously affecting everything that I do. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve to hold on to this pain. And I don't deserve to feel like I have to have the weight of this on my shoulders. I deserve to have the freedom from that. Okay, I'm going to be vulnerable again, and Spirit wants me to. I'm going to end this again with pulling something from my journal. Oh, gosh. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Do you feel guilty for leaving because of love? Is it love or is it control? If it keeps you stuck, is it love? Would real love keep you stuck? And then I have a note here. Aries and Gemini energy is bringing in a masculine energy to exchange. Limiting belief systems around you have limiting belief systems around reaching your success. Sun energy, shining light on this energy, brings out a 10 of Wands feeling. Bitch. Girl. Sorry. Sun energy, right? The sun energy coming in and shining a light on this dark energy is bringing out a 10 of Wands feeling around getting rid of this energy you're holding within your field. Woo. Come on now. I feel like there's more. Okay. Why didn't it work? This could be the source of a father's shame wound, family outside of main family. Why didn't it work? Because it's not real love. It's control and manipulation. Why didn't I attract the type of love I want? You attract the type of love you give. Oh, and Mom, this is a completely different part. Okay, the number 12 or 21 might be significant. You might see the number 12 or 21. Some of you might be digging into a father shame wound, which is funny because we have the Emperor here, right? Sirius could be helping you to heal some type of shame wound that you're holding inside of your shadow around the father energy. Or just around masculine energy in general. That definitely could have some type of energy here with this Nine of Pentacles, like this like fierce independence energy. Like, I don't need no man, or I don't need no something. It's like stepping into shadow feminine energy because of the absence of the masculine energy. And also with this, you attract the the energy that you give. You might subconsciously be trying to control love and love situations more than you realize. And yes, you could be trying to control a situation in the sense of, I don't want to be hurt. I've been hurt in the past, so I don't want to be hurt again. But you might not realize how much you are being controlling and manipulative in your own way around love, or around your thoughts or your belief systems around love, even around self-love. Again, right? Like you're trying to control the natural rhythm of this. And if you allow the natural rhythm of this, you feel like this undue burden because you're trying to control something that's not for you to control. True love is not controlling, it's freeing. And understand that just because you've been hurt in the past, that's not an excuse to bring your own type of persecution or hurt or wounds, or project those wounds out onto other people. And your perception of this might be, well, I'm just trying to protect myself. When what you're really trying to do is control the other person. Have an awareness of that. Okay, the number 41, the number 18, the number 17, the number 26, or the number 4. 4 is the Emperor as well. 26 breaks down to an 8. Okay. This might be some kind of karma that you're trying, a karmic cycle that you're trying to break out of. The number 18 breaks down to a 9. 9 is about being almost at the end of a cycle, learning your lessons, learning to gain your independence, your freedom, your wish fulfillment. "41 breaks down to a 5. These are divinely guided changes that you're being asked to bring into your life. 17 also breaks down to an 8. And I just heard, put in the work and the understanding. Yeah. And then false belief showed itself again. It was sticking out of the deck, and I was like, what is this? Number 13, death energy. 13 also breaks down to a 4. And I just heard, because I see the chains right there, and I heard, break free of the chains that bind. Because sometimes we can be chained to wisdom. Sometimes we can be chained to what we think we know. That's also that Hierophant energy. We can be chained to trained by or chained to tradition and what we think we know to be true. You could also, somebody here could also deal with commitment issues, you know, especially when it comes to love or commitment to a journey, to going on this journey within. Having a commitment and a dedication to going inside and to discovering this truth within yourself. To having the radical self-love that it takes to look at that truth. And to be honest with yourself about what's really going on and why you feel the way you do, why you walk through the world the way that you do. You can't just stop at, oh, I was hurt, and that's why I handle the things the way that I do. What comes after that? After understanding and after knowledge comes action. So Spirit is telling you, once you know these things about yourself, it's time to step into action about that and do something about it. All right. Well, that's what I have for you. Okay? I appreciate you ever so much. And I don't know why, but I'm hearing a scene from, there is a creator here on YouTube called Rap So Petty that does like reimaginings of like certain like animes, and he's doing one of the anime Death Note, and there is a part at the end where one character is speaking to another, and they're like, oh yes, best believe when it comes down to it, it's going to be up to me to put your name in this handy dandy notebook. So Blue's Clues, following clues, I just kept hearing that over and over again. So I was like, I don't know, maybe some of you watch that. Maybe some of you might have been dealing with a person in your past that had some kind of God complex or had some kind of control complex. Maybe you are facing some type of control. You know, I need to have control over even the plan that God has laid out for me. I reject it. I do something like that. Some of you might be really, really diving deep into some deep shadow work here around control and around how we can justify control because of pain that we have endured. There's a lot of karma. There's a lot of something to break down around that. All right, and that's not going to be for everybody, but that's just a little something. Oh yeah, don't forget too that the power of the moon, that the power of Sirius is also working here with you. And I do see this. I picked this card up to show it to you guys. And I see here under here, divine sisterhood. And again, if you watch that other reading or if you go watch it, you'll understand that women supporting women kind of energy. That came out. So some of you here could really be, you know, recovering or dealing with that type of competition among women. We talked in the other reading about how we need to be aware of how, you know, aware of our own internalized competition, our own internalized misogyny, our own internalized patriarchy, our own internalized self-hatred, you know, our own internalized, and how we can project that out onto other people that are like us. All that's playing a role here. All right. I think that's been long enough. Another hour and 20-minute reading. My goodness gracious. Spirit had so much to say today. I really appreciate you guys ever so much. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I have incredible gratitude and understanding. And please understand that, you know, I know how I deliver some of these messages, but please understand that some of these things I'm going through myself. You know, I feel like I said enough in this reading that I feel like almost anybody that watches can find something there for them. They can find some kind of mirror to their spiritual journey in that, you know, in doing shadow work, in facing parts of ourselves that we're not that proud of. It's a part of all of our journeys that all of us have to do. And it's the icky part. It's the nasty part. It's the dirty part. It's not the cute part. It's not the, you know, posting on Instagram, taking that picture of yourself feeling like an empress dressed up like a goddess part, right? It's not that part. It's the nitty gritty. It's the grimy. It's the getting down to it. It's the brass tacks of it. It's the ugly part. It's the realize you've been rolling around in the mud part. It's not, you know, it's not palatable, and it's not aesthetically pleasing. And it's not comfortable, and it's not fun. But it is an amazingly important part of your journey. All right. Hey. All right. I really appreciate you guys ever so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to your angel spirits, guardians, ancestors, masters, and guides for guiding you through this reading, as well as keeping you safe. And I hope that keeping you safe and guiding you to get this information, I hope it gave you the love, light, or clarity that you needed in your situation. Thank you to my angel spirits, guardians, ancestors, masters, and guides. My goodness, Mama, are you okay? for guiding me through delivering this information as well and keeping me safe while they did so. I appreciate you guys ever so much. Thank you. Okay. Comment down below and let me know how you felt about it. Okay. If you feel comfortable, share your story or do whatever, whatever you want to do. And, if you feel guided, to work with me, my contact information down below. I'm pretty sure I already said that. But thank you guys so very much. And I will see you lovelies in the next one, okay? Bye!